Hey,
Well, hello, everyone. This is Rostin Callerman with the Luke 10 community here with John White from the Luke 10 community. Good afternoon, John. How are you doing today, man?
hey, Rostin, we're doing well here in Denver.
Good to see you. Well, like I said in my email to you earlier, we're wanting to continue our conversation where we talk about your some of the things that you've learned from your more difficult experiences in church planting and how those have affected the Luke 10 community over the years. So before we got started with this video, you were saying that there was a book that led to some new appreciations and some new understandings for you. So what was that book, and what's the story here?
Yeah, you bet. By way of preparation, let me just share with you a principle that I've learned from my 3 to 5 club. This is a
Okay.
business club that I'm a part of for people who are owners of small businesses. And we have a saying, which we all kind of laugh at, that when we go through difficult times, anywhere from just a little hiccup to even a bankruptcy or something like that, that we need to frame it as a seminar. And we always say, what's the appropriate response to a seminar? It's the F word, which is fascinating.
You left just the right amount of pause there to make sure that everyone was,
So what's he
what's
really?
John going to say?
So we do the same thing in our club meetings. We all kind of laugh about this together. All that to say, over the course of the years with House Church and Luke 10, we've had a lot of seminars. So I'm
Lots of F words.
yeah. So this is another one of these fascinating stories. So I think I mentioned that we started, Tamla and I, the Lord kind of moved us into the house church world in 1998. We got ekbaloed, that's that word in Luke 10:2b of thrust out or send out. We got ekbaloed out of institutional church into the house church world. The problem is we had no idea what we're doing. I mean, I didn't get trained for this in seminary.
Mm-hmm.
And so here we're kind of bumbling along, and all of a sudden, a friend of mine sends me this article. It's kind of a little newsletter from something called the Dawn Report.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of vaguely heard of Dawn, D-A-W-N, Discipling a Whole Nation. And this particular article was called 7 Million Churches to Go by a guy I'd never heard of before, Wolfgang Simpson. And I read the article, and I thought, this is really good stuff. There was a website listed there. I went to the website, and there's this book on the website. It hadn't been published yet. It's called Houses That Change the World. And I read this book, and I thought, I've got a whole shelf of books on the church. This might be the best thing I've ever read. And so it wasn't published, and so I literally downloaded and printed off the whole thing. It was like 180 pages. And I took it over to CopyMax, and I said, give me 10 copies of this. So, a few days later, I go back and pick up these, 10 copies of this book, Houses That Change the World.
Mm-hmm.
And I started passing it out to people in our existing house church there. And I say, read the first 2 chapters, and we'll meet for lunch on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And people would read it, and they say, wow, this is great stuff. You have to realize back in those days, there was nothing on house church. You couldn't, I mean, today there's a lot of stuff, but there was no material whatsoever on house church.
Except for the New Testament, of course.
Well, I guess that's what graduate school will do for you. So anyway, people are really excited about this book, and he's talking about church planting and starting new house churches, and we got excited about this. And I'm thinking, given this new material that we've learned and what we're doing with house church, anybody can start a house church. And so we start talking about that in our house church. And our house church was pretty big at that point. We were like 25, 30 people. Wow. And we began starting house churches. And so in the next year, we started 7 house churches, like a 1 year. The only problem is that 6 of them died. I had to kind of back up and say, this is a seminar. I didn't know that. But I was really disturbed by this fact. And so I began to think and pray about what we're doing, obviously something wrong. And what the Lord did was he led me back to Luke chapter 10. Mm-hmm. And this part where Jesus says, when you go into a town or village, you have one job: find the house of peace. There's a man of peace or a woman of peace or a couple of peace that's there. And I thought that must be the key. What in the world is a house of peace or a man of peace? And as we begin to dig into that, we realize that peace is a bigger word in Hebrew than it is in English. The word shalom, shalom bet, is the Hebraic concept.
For house of peace.
House of peace,
that's
right.
the Hebrew phrase for that. Okay.
Yeah. So shalom, it means literally mature. It means healthy. I have a theory that it may be that this is exactly what Paul is talking about in 1 Timothy 3. That's the place where he talks about the qualities of an overseer. An overseer must be all those things. And I was thinking about Paul's situation. Here he is in the early 60s AD, probably. He's been planting churches for at least 10 years, maybe 15 years. And my thought is, as he's writing Timothy, he's kind of reflecting back on his experience. And he's thinking about what kind of a person makes a good, or people make a good house church leader. And my guess is, if he's anything like us, he probably had some significant failures.
He had some seminars as well.
Yeah, he had some seminars, no doubt.
Yeah.
And he's kind of thinking about, what were the qualities of these people of peace, these people of shalom that we need to start with. And again, shalom meaning maturity and healthy. And so he's got this list of things, like he says not addicted to wine. So I can imagine a person who's where they really know the word and they're really good at gathering people together, but they're alcoholic.
Yeah.
The house church is probably going to struggle. There's another word in there that gets translated pugnacious. I like that word, pugnacious. Or
it's a fighter, I guess.
Yeah, a fighter. So again, this person's maybe great. He's really charismatic and they gather people together. But this guy's always picking fights with people.
It's combative, I guess, too.
That's exactly right. So, probably that house church is not going to work very well. All of that to say, I began to develop the conviction that what Jesus was talking about was that we start house churches with people who are mature, who are what I would call spiritual grown-ups. Just like with physical families, the health of the family is going to be about as great as the health of the parents. It's going to reflect the health of the parents. And what we were doing was starting house churches with people who were, they were good people. They loved Jesus, but there was some significant immaturity in their lives. And so no wonder those house churches eventually folded within a pretty short period of time. So all that to say, that particular seminar developed in me the conviction that we don't ever want to start a house church by just gathering, hey, Tuesday night, we're going to get 10 people together and start a house church. No, we want to start with one or more, hopefully more, people who have a level of maturity, spiritual, emotional maturity, that can genuinely be spiritual moms and dads for this house church. That's probably the most important factor in seeing healthy house churches. So that's what we learned from our first experience of planting 7 house churches.
That's really good. I love, okay, so one thing, I love that reading of 1 Timothy 3. Almost any time that I've heard a preacher or a Bible teacher at a church dive into that passage, that's much more of a, hey, these are the moral qualities of an elder, which I think is true as well, but I think it's the wrong framework. And I think that coming at it from the framework of, no, this is the spiritual maturity that's required for this to be a healthy church. Not just this is the moral example that you want for your people, but this is actually what's going to be able to be, part of the glue that binds the church together. I really, really appreciate that.
It's not just theoretical ideas. By the way, this is a good thing, but these have real practical implications. If you start a spiritual family, a house church in your house.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other thing that popped into my head was, it's so fascinating that now we fast forward 20 years and it seems like that idea is sort of the undergirding of the Leader 101 curriculum, that it would be easy to look at Leader 101 just as this is the place where people who are already mature leaders go to continue being mature leaders or something like that. And that could be part of it, but really it feels like, to me, like the curriculum is developing people into the kind of person of peace. Like if someone's saying, this is who I want. I want to be the person that can plant a house church. Well, let's get you there. Let's help you fill in the gaps, the places where in your backgrounds you've had these things that have blocked you from maturity. Let's work on that together.
Absolutely. And the other thing, one last comment I'd make is that also shapes our praying of the 10-2B prayer. So we are asking the Lord to send us people who either have that elder level of maturity or who are on the way and really want to learn that. So I used to say in the old days, I would do a little bit of praying and a whole lot of training and discipling to get somebody to a place of maturity. Well, now I do a lot of praying, and God sends us people who are often very mature, very close to being ready to do this. And as we say, he does the heavy lifting.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Well, thanks, John. This has been a really good second installment of our John's worst church planting experiences and how they've shaped our community. And we'll do another one in the not too distant future.
Sounds good, Rostin. Thank you.